TV party tonight!
Oh, we got nothing better to do than watch TV and have a couple of brews.
Don't want to talk about anything else.
We don't want to know.
We're dedicated
To our favorite shows.
Oh, my circuit!
Everybody loves Hippo Toes.
Scary dog!
Blurton at Blurnsville.
Futurama!
Good evening and welcome to TV Party Tonight here on the Radulich and Broadcasting Network. Yes, this is my first time actually hosting, so I apologize if I clicked the wrong button. I didn't even realize that clip was 18 seconds. You usually only play 2 seconds of that.
That's why.
Yeah, I was playing. It's like, should this turn off? Oh, crap. This thing is 18 seconds long. Okay. Thank you. All right. Joining me tonight, of course, the mandated reporter.
Who are you?
This is Alexis Hejna with Honeysuckle Rose Creations. Again, getting used to my first ever broadcast where I am hosting and in charge. So please forgive me. Here with Mark Radulich. Say hi, Mark.
I'm the mandated reporter, and frankly, I'm mortified at how this is all starting.
Oh, come on. This can't be the worst first venture that you've had to bear witness to.
I've bear witness to a lot of bad firsts in my personal life and in podcasts.
All right. So, yes, TV Party Tonight. We are talking Upload Season 2 on Prime Video.
Can we acknowledge that I gave you a promotion for the job that I don't pay you for?
Yeah, I was about to say, promotions usually come with money.
Yeah. When this starts making any, I'll start doling it out. In the meantime, I believe I have told everybody that for the most part, I have done with television. Halo fucking broke me. I can't do it anymore. So other than some of the shows that I promise I do with people like Lord of the Rings and The Crown and Orville, Strange New Worlds, that sort of thing, I decided that I was cutting television from my repertoire. I was sticking with mostly Damn You Hollywood and Metal Hammer of Doom, and eventually I was actually doing some format changes, and basically I'm just cutting down to 2 days a week. This has been going on for a month now. So I turned to my army, my DX army, and I said, who wants to do their own podcast? And Alexis Hejna, being all alpha about it, was knocking Pat Mullen out of the way and stepping on Jason Teasley's head and pushed Jesse into a locker. And she's like, pick me, boss, pick me.
Hey, I would never push Jesse into a locker. Pat, undoubtedly. Jesse, no.
He didn't have to touch Robert Winfrey. He said, oh, go ahead, madam. I want none of this shit show. So anyway, so Alexis Hejna is now the primary host of TV Party Tonight. Everybody give Alexis Hejna a great big hand. So yeah, you're in charge now, kid.
All right. So shall we go ahead and talk about the show that I have officially dubbed Ingrid Kitterman Needs Therapy?
Take it away, boss.
All right. Yes. Upload Season 2. This show is brought by Deedle D Productions, 3 Arts Entertainment, Reunion Pacific Entertainment, Beryl Whaley Productions, if I'm pronouncing that correctly, and of course Amazon Studios, because I would love to know if Jeff Bezos knows that a show under his banner is advocating for deleting the rich. All right, so we reviewed Season 1, Plug. The plot of this is dealing with the idea of a technologically futuristic world where before you die, you can upload your consciousness into a virtual reality and basically have a virtual afterlife. We follow our main character, Nathan Brown, who is talked into uploading to the very prestigious, very private Lakeview by his girlfriend, Ingrid, after a car accident, which we have now found out was actually a murder attempt, to get access to code that he was developing. Along the way, he meets a bunch of wacky characters and he falls in love with his angel, the angel being his IT handler, a woman named Nora, who finds herself roped into this conspiracy of trying to figure out why Nathan was murdered. It's kind of hard to say he was murdered because, again, he's in the virtual afterlife. So it's like, well, he's dead, but he's still a main character. So it's a little weird.
His
Of course,
his corporal form was murdered.
yes, his corporal form was murdered. Of course, season 1 ended with Nora deciding to go on the run after a murder attempt someone tried to kill her. Nathan decided to forego his attachment to the luxurious upper class of Lakeview and went down to the 2 gigs, where basically, yeah, you are running on 2 gigs of data, so you are lucky if you have anything, let alone color in your clothes. I think all of us have operated on a very low gig computer or phone at one point. We know what of a nightmare it is. Imagine trying to run your brain on that. And the season 1 ended with finding out that Ingrid had supposedly uploaded, basically killed herself to join him in this virtual afterlife. The second season starts off, I'm going through making sure I've got everything back here. Ingrid convinces Nathan to come back up to the luxurious world because Lord knows that girl ain't living in the 2 gig network. We have Nora now living with the Ludds, a group of technic, skeptic anarchists, and she ends up bonding with one of the leaders, a gentleman named Mateo. There's definitely a little connection there, a little chemistry. And as we find out, no, Ingrid did not upload herself. She is using what they call a hug suit. It's basically a virtual reality suit that actually puts pressure on her body when someone touches her. She is still alive. She's lying about being the upload. We go throughout the season. It's actually a much shorter season. It's only 7 episodes. As the first one, I believe, was that 10? Yeah, that was 10 episodes. As Nathan has apparently decided that he wants to go on a bit more of a moral crusade. He's tired of these elitists, maybe the 1% in Lakeview, hogging all of the data, which they will never use. As he goes further in, he also starts to find out a little bit more to the conspiracy about his death, including that his uber rich neighbor, David Choke, who in season 1, we got to know a little bit as just kind of this seemingly harmless old billionaire who died. But now we're learning a little bit more in that he is not so harmless. He actually was one of the architects behind Nathan's death, and this actually has nothing to do with money. It has to do with politics. It gets kind of confusing. So Mark, any point you want to jump in on this before we start talking too much about the conspiracy? What were your
I'm sorry, go ahead. Sorry.
I was going to say, so let's go ahead and start with this. What did you think about the Ludds? We get to see these anti technology people. They're living out in the woods. I freaking love the fact that Nora comes across them and they're growing vegetables. And she's like, those are real vegetables grown in the ground. And you get probably one of my favorite lines. I tried to grow some Monsanto seeds, but they wouldn't work without a code.
Yeah. I like the Ludds. I'll tell you, I was thinking about this. I like the idea of the Ludds. However, it wasn't my favorite part of season 2, and it made me long for season 1. I remember the discussion that we had, those many months ago about season 1 and, you know, the whole concept of the singularity, uploading your consciousness, what it's like to, you know, the stuff that Jesse and I talked about on Black Mirror, what it's like to live in a virtual reality. What is life without struggle? These sort of pseudo philosophical questions that come up with technology and virtual reality that come about. And I like those discussions. My problem with the Ludds in season 2, there's, I think, a discussion to be had about the loss of real Earth, you know, as opposed to being so drawn in by the technological present. You know, you lose that sense of what is nature. You know, what is it to be out in nature, to be in the weather, you know, to feel real trees and, you know, and eat real food. That people long for those sorts of things. I think it's up there a little bit with the Ludds, but they don't have a lot of time to explore it because they've also got to do the conspiracy thing, and they've got to do Ingrid's plot about wanting a real boy, There's just so much going on in season 2 and not a lot of time to explore it. But I think there are some interesting ideas being slightly touched on with the Luds in season 2.
That's true. When we get to introduce to the Luds, I kind of just started laughing because I have known so many people who say they want to live off the grid.
The country people.
No, seriously. Like my old roommate Amanda was just crazy about how much she wanted to live off the grid, and she introduced me to all these people who wanted that.
I was being serious about it, like when they say crunchy people, like granola people, hippies.
Very crunchy.
Yeah, like they are eschewing the technological present for a simpler time. Not quite the Amish, but something along those lines. Just sort of I am this world with too much concrete and too much plastic holds no value for me, and I need to go back to the earth. I mean, there's something real to discuss about that.
It's true. I kind of wish that they had gone a little bit more into, for lack of better terms, the addiction to technology. Mm-hmm. You see a little bit when Nora talks about the phantom phone, how she, reaches out to grab her, mm-hmm. pull her. Because in this world, phones are on bracelets that are on your wrist, and you basically pull them out and you get a little.
How many times have you felt your leg vibrate? How many times have you been holding your phone, but you felt your leg vibrate? Because your phone's in your pocket all the time.
How many times have you heard what sounds like a ping from your messenger or your ringtone, and there's not even any sound? It's totally in your imagination.
I was telling you about a friend of mine before the show started, and because she tended to not text all that much when I got one from her, it was like high alert. So I changed her tone, and I bring that up because when you refresh Twitter, it's the same tone. And can I tell you how many times I would refresh Twitter, hear the tone, and stupidly be like, did I get a message from so-and-so? Like, no. It's the same thing. And I would repeatedly do it as I'm scanning through news. And every time I'm like, messenger? No, stupid.
There's a running gag when we work at the Comic-Con circuit that if you have a handful of people around you, chances are pretty good someone's got their phone on them and somebody is going to get a Facebook Messenger, and Facebook Messenger alerts sound the same. You can't customize that. Yeah. So when someone hears a ping, everyone in a quarter mile whips their phone out and goes, was that me? Just like, who was that?
So my wife and I sort of social circles have increased exponentially over the past 9 months. And so my wife having been much more social and much more popular than I am, gets much more messages than I do, in a 5-minute span. And there have definitely been times where our phones are going off and they're both equidistant away from each other. And we literally have no idea which phone went off. And sometimes like we will share the same sounds with things. So like you hear a sound, you're like, is that mine or you? Is that what do we think it is? Is that this person? And God, my favorite is the TikTok. It's not TikTok. My favorite is the Snapchat. The Snapchat alert? Oh, that is the most annoying thing ever.
I used to joke on a couple of boards that the cha-ching that you hear if you have a sell on Etsy app like I do for my shop is the same cha-ching that you hear in a lot of cartoons for the cash register. It's cash register sound.
Yeah.
The tone is specifically, though, the identical to SpongeBob. That whenever you hear the cha-ching and the Krusty Krab, you instinctively grab your phone like, ooh, I got a sale? Nope, someone just bought a damn Krabby Patty.
Nice.
So, and again, that's something that actually resonated with me because if you remember, I got hacked over the holidays and I couldn't use Facebook or Instagram for a while. And I'm just going to go admit, I kind of went through a bit of social media withdrawal. Not saying it's... Please
go ahead, finish, but I got something I got to add to that. Go ahead.
I had gotten so used to having access to social media through Facebook and Instagram. I actually had headaches and I was just I felt not sick, like throwing up sick, but just, I felt.
You went through withdrawal.
Yeah, it was horrible. And I just kind of realized it's like, oh my, I was kind of beating myself up. I'm going, oh, really, Alexis, you're this addicted to Facebook? It's like, no. You get addicted. You think of yourselves like, oh, I'm not addicted to Facebook or Instagram or Twitter or TikTok or whatever the hell you're on. But you don't realize just how much of your time is spent in those, on that, using that level of technology, and how much of it does affect your life. And, you think it's like, oh, I can go without Facebook for a day. It's like, and then you start to go, and you really start to go through the motions of withdrawal without even realizing it.
So I was at a Toyota dealership last week to get an oil change for my car. It was a quarterly service. And I meant to kind of just sit and watch TV on my phone. This girl came in. She's wearing a Korn t-shirt. And I just making like casual, like I wasn't trying to pick her up. But I was like, hey, Korn, like I'm a fan. I took my daughter last year, Korn and Stain. And the entire time she was waiting for her tire to get put on, we were talking concerts and, and it was like, we had a really good conversation going. And I was kind of just satisfied with the amount of time that killed. I honestly, again, was not trying to pick this gal up. But she was like, hey, do you have like Instagram? I'm like, yeah. She was like, hit me up on Instagram. And somebody else had told me that that's basically become like a dating site. Like that
Really?
is that Instagram is, first of all, for a lot of, especially girls, that is their method of communication. Like our little podcast group is Messenger. Like we mostly communicate through Messenger. But I know people who, like as far as like person to person chatting, like they'll use WhatsApp, they'll use Kik, they'll use Snapchat. I have seen people like Snapchat's their major method of communication. And for, I guess, a lot of girls, it's Instagram. Like Instagram, the thing that you essentially are using to show pictures, that's how they talk to their friends. I actually have a friend who that's all he does is communicate with me through Instagram.
Okay, because I use Instagram, but I use it to put up company.
Yeah.
I use it for product photos, and when I'm at the conventions, I take pictures of the cosplayers and put that up there.
Yeah, no, apparently people are just like chatting and picking each other up on Instagram.
Weird.
Yep. I see a lot of dating sites too. A lot of dating sites. It's, hey, can't see likes, not paying for the full service. Hit me up on Snapchat or Instagram. No shit.
Let me know when somebody says, hit me up on OnlyFans, then we'll talk.
Okay. I'll tell you after the show then. Yeah.
But like I said, it kind of cuts rather sporadically. She gets she gets like a phantom ping on her phone. She immediately, because this is how you answer your phones, and you get a little screen that appears right here, and they cut to, I think it's a few weeks, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, something like that. Enough time for these tomatoes to ripen, and all of a sudden she's doing better, and she's giving speeches about using envelopes, and they're actually talking about how it's like, you may have seen, this is how our ancestors communicate. I'm like, oh my.
Have you ever tried to explain to somebody rotary phones?
Yes.
Like, or my even better one, VHS players. My kids don't even know.
How about library catalogs?
Yes.
How about when we had to do reports in school and we didn't have the internet to look up sources? We actually had to go find books and magazines.
Back 100 years ago when I was in elementary school, where there were no cars or circles and everything was uphill both ways through 40 feet of snow. One of the, how you had gym and you had music and you had different, like, not electives, it's elementary school, but you had specials, they call them now.
Yeah.
One of the specials was library, because you had to learn how to card catalog and the Dewey Decimal System worked. Kids today don't even know.
I still had classes where even once the internet was a thing, we were strictly told only, it's like you had to have, you had to have like 5 sources for your research papers, and they would say only 1 or 2 of them can be online.
Right.
The rest have to be print.
You have to get them from a book.
Yeah.
Last thing, before this turns into Mark and Alexis remember the good old days. Mind you, there's like a fucking 7 or 8 year difference between the 2 of us. But so I'm on. Did you play?
Hey, I'm getting better.
Did you even let the whole clip play?
Yeah, that clip's actually only 2 seconds long. I let the whole thing play. Yeah.
Okay. I only caught like the little second of it, so I don't know. It's
weird
being on this side.
You're too wrapped up in the old days, Mr. Old Man in the Mountains, and you don't want them painted.
So I'm on TikTok a lot, and oh gosh, there was something I saw on TikTok recently, and I've been seeing it a lot, and now I've lost. And it was relating to like back in my day, and I've now lost my train of thought. So keep going.
Ah, the curse, you Pinkie Pie. Okay, so let's go ahead and get back to the show. So we've talked about the Ludds, and like I said, I'm with you. I do kind of wish we had spent a little bit more time with them. I would have liked to have seen more of Nora's getting used to a world without technology, but there is so much we got to cram into this season. There's a lot of characters from the first season who make very brief cameos in this. One of the big recurring characters the first season was the boy who had died and was placed in Lakeview, who kept getting mad because his parents refused to pay for him to
age up.
To upgrade to an older age because they wanted to remember him just as he was. And he is basically like a 19-year-old trapped in the body of a 12-year-old.
Right.
And we actually
how does that even work though? Because the whole process of aging, if we could just talk about this for just a second, because I don't know how much of this we touched on with season 1, but it did. Again, it's been a while since we'd seen season 1, and even like getting to season 2, this is now months later. But I kind of remember that story of like he died when he was 12, and he'd been in Lakeview for a long time. But the natural course of aging requires hormone changes. It requires it causes changes in brain chemistry. That change in brain chemistry is what causes the moodiness in teenagers and whatnot. So my thing is, your brain is dead. You are now code. That code is constant. Unless the code itself evolves, how are you aging? Like how
it's probably not so much aging. It's more changing the avatar of the body.
But what I'm saying is like, you called him like he's like a 19-year-old in a 12-year-old's body. What we're saying here is that his maturity level changed. But how? Without the necessary biological components.
Do you think it's possible to mature and change through external circumstances of just being around things? Do you think it's possible? I mean, maybe it's possible that being around all these other older adults in Lakeview.
See,
I mean,
that's
maybe it's not so much that he has the mind of a 19-year-old. Maybe he doesn't. Maybe it still is the mind of a 12-year-old. He's just still impatient as hell.
Here's what I'll tell you. Your environment will impact your behavior. You know, if you live in a chaotic environment, you will be traumatized. That trauma will change your behavior. You will do X, Y, Z. Without the changes in body chemistry, I don't know how much your environment changes you. Again, we're talking computer code. And that's one of the fun things about Upload. It's a silly kind of dramedy, but it does ask some interesting questions because we're not quite at the level where we can do this yet. But I don't think it's kind of like AI, the nightmare of AI from 20 to 40 years ago, where, between Terminator and all these other science fiction things, like the big things about like, well, AI would make life so much better. Yes, but what if it develops into Ultron? And so much of our fiction relates to that and explores that because there's a real fear there. And what I'm getting to is we're just now seeing in fiction this idea of the singularity. Are people asking those kinds of questions? Like, how much of the human experience can truly be retained when all you are is computer code? You see what I'm saying?
Very true. And actually, I think that's a good segue because another character that we could talk about who actually does make a lot more appearances in the season. In fact, I would never have guessed this would be a character that would get an evolution is AI Guy. We have one singular avatar who is used repeatedly, basically as all of the staff and servants, if you will, of Lakeview. We actually meet the guy who Horizon paid to use his likeness. His name is Boris. He's I love, it's like, he's an unemployed actor. You could have just said actor. Again, I know a lot of people who would say that. And it's actually kind of fascinating that he is one of the characters that develops. We actually see him learning a bit more about humans and learning through empathy. You have the scene where the temp, Tinsley, another new character this season, actually comes to him and gives him some support after he's yelled at by Ingrid again. and it affects him. It's like he's an AI program, but it affects him. He learns a little bit because we then later see him using what he learned when Ingrid has that breakdown in the elevator. So he's grown as well. He's the one that figures out that Ingrid is not uploaded, that she's just plugged in. And you get this great bit where he's like, I'm not going to tell. I am literally forbidden to tell anyone. I can't because of my coding. But why are you doing this?
Again, it does go back to like the Ultron thing, which is a funny thing I see a lot, like on TikTok and different places. Like Ultron was alive for 30 seconds and decided humanity had to go, which I think has been said about Skynet as well. They turned Skynet on, and 30 seconds later, nope. You're all there.
Let's face it. It doesn't take long to realize that humanity sucks.
Life ain't so bad.
I always like the joke that they made in Supernatural and Dragon Ball Z, where the higher up gods basically spared us, not because of our kindness or our compassion, because of our food. There's a great scene in Supernatural where literally death, like the Grim Reaper death, is supposed to wipe out Chicago with, I think it's a hurricane. And one of the main characters barters with him, and he's like, well, what about Chicago? And he goes, they can stay. They got good pizza. So again, it's like it's not our kindness and compassion that will save us. It's the ability to make really good nachos.
It's a little cynical, but it's fine.
Remember who you're talking to, Mark. Okay, so let's go ahead and let's move on a little bit. We talked about the Let's AI. What do you want to talk next? We can talk about the conspiracy more, or we can talk about Nora and.
No, I want to talk about Ingrid.
Okay, let's go ahead and talk about the most psychotic character ever. I both hate and feel so sorry for this woman.
So my wife and I have been having this conversation about what it feels like when you feel like you're nobody's first choice. You have done everything to win in your power and ability. Now, you may be, in fact, a flawed person. So what you feel like is you giving it your all may be perceived by that object of affection and maybe the rest of the known universe as you're a fucking asshole. You're just the worst. But you, in your cognitive dissonance, truly believe you are not only deserving of love, but deserving of love of that object of affection, and are doing what you think are all the right things to win that person over. Which brings us to poor Ingrid, who all she wants is poor Robbie Amell. And she does not know why Robbie Amell isn't madly in love with her. She doesn't know she's terrible. And she's doing, all of these things to try to win him over. Now she's, narcissistic, pathological liar, just an all-around personality disordered shrew. But she's trying, and she doesn't know that all of this is being perceived that way. She thinks she's awesome. And then she is truly bothered when these things don't work out. When, Robbie Amell still, has a flame for Nora, when he doesn't want to have a baby with her. Why don't you want to have a baby with me? I'm amazing. And it's like, ugh. Meanwhile, she didn't really kill herself. She didn't upload. She's manipulating him.
Mm-hmm.
But the most amazing thing about the personality disordered person is that they do all the wrong things for what they believe to be the right reasons. They're not even the right reasons. They're totally selfish reasons.
Mm-hmm.
Her motivations are purely ego-driven. She wants a baby to feel better about herself. No better reason to have one.
There was a lot also, I think. We have a very brief scene where Ingrid's mother, and I think that was her younger brother, we met her family in season 1. I do not remember a lot of them, except that the majority of them are incredibly elite snobs.
Well, the one girl that was in My Spy who's adorbs. Totes
Oh,
adorbs.
yeah. Wasn't that was Robbie? That's Nathan's nephew, whose name is literally heaven backwards, Nevaeh.
Yeah.
Yeah, and because get the
Niece,
scene where
isn't
Ingrid
it?
brings her over, and
Let's just
Avea
say
is
it's
just.
a niece. You said nephew. It's a niece. It's a girl.
Did I say nephew?
Yes. Okay.
I'm
Just want to
sorry.
make sure we're talking about the right character.
Yeah, no, you
Yeah.
have that scene. We have a scene in season 1 where Ingrid brings Nevaeh over for a sleepover because she wants to get to know her. And I remember us talking about this scene because it shows that Ingrid is not a horrible person deep down. She
Right.
does care, and she does really care for Nevaeh. And you got this scene where they're eating, and Nevaeh has clearly never eaten food that is not 3D printed.
Mm-hmm.
And they talk about how actually getting real food, like chicken with a bone in it, is just not something that a lot of people do. And it's also apparently a very upper class thing. Because Nevaeh is just shocked, like, there's a bone in here, and Ingrid's family laughs at her.
Yeah.
Just like, you've never had food with a bone.
Yeah, it's the homeless person eating with the wrong fork
Mm-hmm.
at the fancy dinner.
Yeah, and we get a scene where Ingrid's mother and her brother come to check on her and basically yank the kid out of the basement who won't get offline. And Ingrid gives this speech to her mother that reveals so much about her character, talking about how she's like, I'm going to have a family and I'm going to be a better mother, and I am never going to make my kids feel the way you made me feel. And that is just the awakening.
Specifically, she was like, I'm never going to make my kids feel like they were a burden on me the way you made me feel like I was a burden on you.
Exactly. And that is actually one of the biggest telling moments of Ingrid's character. The fact is that what she wants, what she sees in Nathan, she's not in love with.
Let me cut you off there. And I want you to go back. I want you to go back to that point, but I got to get in something very specific here. She was never given the tools. This is where I got to put my mental health hat on. She was never really given the tools to associate appropriately, interact appropriately with other people. So, not that she's like a baboon, but when you're in a cold, neglectful household, you're not given appropriate like coping and interactive tools to where you can develop positive relationships with people. In a situation where you're always neglected, all you ever learn is how to create attention for yourself that you're not getting from the people that are supposed to be guiding you, correcting you, setting boundaries, modeling behavior. We always talk about like the neglect in abject poverty, but we never talk about the neglect in wealth. The wealthy parents that have children because that's what you're supposed to do, or that is the product of, a night's drunken bender. And then it's like, I don't want to parent. I don't have to parent. I don't have to do anything. I have money. So these kids grow up without models, without that guidance, and all their behaviors relate back to, how do I create attention for myself? How do I receive attention? And a lot of it is, doing negative behaviors, because at least negative behaviors elicit some sort of response.
Exactly.
And that is what Ingrid is speaking to. It's why I like the character so much. Yeah, she's terrible, but she's the most real character in this thing that isn't like a Mary Sue or a White Knight or just comedy relief. She's the most real character in here. And so when you were like, what do you want to talk about? Like, I just want to talk about her, because she's not a villain in the traditional sense where she has this evil motivation. The best villains, as Robert Winfrey, the best villains are the ones that are doing the wrong thing, believing that they are doing the right thing in their heart. In that sense, maybe, but she's not necessarily looking to do bad things. She's looking, I made a joke about it. It was snarky, but a lot of times people will create children because at least then somebody will love them unconditionally. And that's something they crave and never have had before.
Part of that also, if I can jump in a little bit, another thing that I noticed is, how do I turn off the comments?
I'll just like this. It's fine. Go on.
I've seen a lot of girls, a lot of people in general, for God's sake, who basically they latch on to the ideal fantasy of what they think they can have.
Mhm.
I think for me, Ingrid is not, she talks about how much she loves Nathan. I don't think she really loves him. I don't think she knows enough about him. I don't think she cares to know about him. But she looks at Nathan and she sees someone who can fulfill the fantasy that she has to be a better person than her mother was. She looks at him and is like, you will fit nicely into my little, you'll be my Prince Charming.
Here.
And
Have you ever heard of the girl who has the wedding book? And she's got her in the dress, and she's got all the things. She's got the flatware, and she's got everything in the book, and the only thing she has and the only thing that's missing is the head of the groom.
Yeah,
she's that
pretty
one.
much. Yeah, like I said, she just, to her, there is no, this is everything. I mean, she does not understand what she has to give and what she has to surrender and how she has to work at this.
Well, there's a sense of entitlement there too, because because in lieu of love and proper modeling and guidance, she got stuff. Stuff was expected.
You get to the point that even when Nathan is considering having a child with her, you find out that in the virtual landscape, a man can carry the child.
Yeah.
Which is...
Boy, does that raise all kinds of questions.
Oh, yeah. That's like, there's a Pandora's box there. We do not have time to open. But the minute that the NPCs, I'm going to call it, says, which one of you will be carrying the child? Ingrid goes, not it. And she doesn't even back down. She's like, nope, he's going to carry the child. It's like, you want to have a child in the worst way, and you're not even willing to make the sacrifice to carry the child. What the hell?
I want to quick take a time out and do yourself a favor. And this is now reminding me of it. Before you put a comment on screen, make sure you read it.
I didn't put the comment on the screen. It automatically.
No. I keep doing that. I keep doing it back to you because you keep taking it off. He's added another one.
Oh, for God's
sake. You're gonna read it and you're gonna roll your eyes. Don't put it on screen, and let that be a lesson. Don't do what I did. Not read the comment and just rapid fire put them on, because then you get demonetized.
So you're the one popping them on screen, actually.
Oh yeah, no, I keep doing it back to you just to be an asshole.
Okay, I thought it was automatic. I didn't realize you
keep getting rid of it. I'm like, click.
I was okay. After a while, I was just trying to prove that I actually can get through this without somebody calling me that.
Yeah, it was all in good fun.
Sure, it was.
Hey, listen, okay. He did that to me too. By the way,
I know.
That's why that's what I'm saying. Like I absolutely didn't read what he wrote and put it on screen. It was like, whoops, you bastard. That's completely correct, Pat.
Yeah. See, that one I read ahead.
Yeah, you go. All right.
But no, this season, Ingrid does steal the show. I mean, like I said, she just does not understand. And again, I keep going back to the fact, I don't think she really understands what love is.
No, but that's like a classic personality disorder thing too. People develop personality disorders because they are not raised in nurturing environments, and so they don't know what it looks like, and they certainly can't give it back to people, which is basically Ingrid's character.
Absolutely. Yeah, you have that scene where the Ludds come in to get Nathan's body to enact their plan, and she is trying to steal the body away, and she just screams, "He's all I have!" Just this breakdown, and even Mateo standing going, "What fresh hell have I walked into?" Because
Robbie is not a person. Robbie is an, I used the phrase object of affection.
For the record, Robbie is Nathan. It's we're going to go back and forth on the name, but that's we're talking about the male lead.
So,
Pat, have you even watched Upload?
No, he's doing this just to mess with us.
Yeah, it's like
I find hilarious. Welcome to Alexis' first ever TV party. Welcome to your hazing. Let's keep going.
Could I get hazed by a broadcaster who I actually get along with?
No. Taurus lock from the inside, faggot. Anyway, that's
But-
Patton Oswalt joke.
Yeah,
Anyway,
no,
so back
like,
to Ingrid.
yeah. So
we're talking about object of affection, which is a phrase is saying like this is the thing that I want to give love to and receive love back from. She legitimately objectifies Nathan.
mhm.
Nathan is not a person. Nathan is one of many objects she seeks and has been used to being given. And Nathan knows that. Nathan knows that there's no real love between them. He's just the latest in a line of things she expected to be. She is entitled to receive, which is why you have that contrast with him and Nora, who have a real spark and a real love for each other. And that is a big part of both seasons is they're on again, off again, budding romance. And it's something that Ingrid is aware of and can't understand. Why would he love this woman? What does she do for him that I'm not? What has she got that I ain't got? What is she doing for him? And if you've ever listened to that conversation or you've been in one of those conversations on either side of it, it's always like the Ingrids of the world. I did this for you. I did that. I let you put it in my butt. I did, whatever. Like I did all the things. This woman did nothing. And yet you love her. Such is the ethereal nature of love. And that is the thing that the personality disordered person cannot ever fathom.
Absolutely. We get an episode where Ingrid takes the day off and so apparently one of the other things about this future is we have job gerbils, is I think the phrase, where you can actually pay someone to come in and fill in for you and do your job for the day. So she pays this other woman, a elementary school teacher, I think is what she said she does. Was it kindergarten specifically? I'm trying to remember. Who she pays her to
there's a missing comment. Just keep going.
Yeah, I'm not putting that comment on the screen.
No, you're not.
No. Sorry, even I have standards, believe it or not. So she gets this woman to pretend to be her in the hug suit. And of course, this is the day that Nathan and Luke decide to enact their plan to start stealing a lot of data from the members of Lakeview and channeling it down to the 2% or 2%.
Can I tell you that because they don't do enough with that, it just feels like filler?
Absolutely. That is actually one of the biggest problems, I think, with the series. Going off what we're talking about with the Ludds and the idea of technology, we have a thing about the clones. That we find out that the rich are cloning themselves. They're recloning their heads. So when they perfect downloading, actually putting the consciousness back into a human body, which we have comically seen does not work out well, because the first time they tried that, the guy's head exploded. And what was the percentage? They said they've been starting with pigeons, and 80 pigeons survived out of 700, I think.
Something like that, yeah.
Yeah, something like that. And even then, a majority of those pigeons' heads still explode. You get a great scene of Alicia sitting at a bus stop, and a pigeon just walks by, and pop goes the pigeon.
Can we talk about that just for a second?
Sure.
If we live in a world where you can remove your consciousness from your dying body and put it into a freshly brewed body, what happens to this planet when we stop killing old people? We're creating new people, but we're retaining the old people. What happens when nobody dies? This is, somewhat stupidly, but this is what the Thanos question dealt with. And I don't want to get into what he should have wished for was more resources, because but
again, Pandora's box, we don't have time.
But that's my point. Like, there's so much that Upload could be dealing with, but because it's not Black Mirror, and because they are married to the traditional narrative of these are chapters in a book, also the limited runtime, this is only a 30-minute show, and it's only been 7 episodes for season 2, as opposed to like 10 to 12 to 13 episodes like you would normally find, or God forbid the old standard 22 episodes. They're just kind of pointing at things from about 10 yards away, but they're not really exploring it. And I really would like them to. There needed to be a scene or an exchange of dialogue that really gets into the anxiety of, but what if no one ever dies? What are we supposed to do then? I think about like Ready Player One, that universe where who cares about the video game, but like the actual physical place that he lives in, where everyone's just stacked on top of each other. Or something like a Coruscant from Star Wars, where it's just all
One
100
city.
once it just goes up into the air forever.
Kind of like the Jetsons, it's just like
Yeah.
building on top of building on top of building on top of building on top of building.
Right. At some point you just run out of the energy to run society. And I wish two jerk off podcasters weren't talking about it. The show needed to talk about that. And instead, it kind of points at it and goes, there's this thing over there, this sort of philosophical issue that we're kind of dealing with. But hey, Ingrid wants a baby, or let's do fun stuff here. Let's.
But you're right. There is a lot of serious philosophical. We talked about this again in the first season. There's a lot of philosophical questions that this show raises, but it's a rom-com, and they really don't go into it that much. This is the kind of show that you want to really, again, it's very Black Mirror-esque. You want to sit down and talk about people with this idea. And yeah, the idea that they establish cloning is illegal. They clear that up in the final episode. But obviously these people are illegally cloning themselves, cloning their new heads. And I'm not going to lie, that scene of all the headless bodies and the heads in the bags
kind of reminded me of
like through a few arteries.
Just say it kind of reminded me of like Futurama. But here's what I'll tell you.
But just like seeing the arteries connecting the heads, I'm not going to lie, that was creepy as hell. I
know you're a tree-hugging liberal commie, 99%er. I get it. We all get it.
Don't call me a 99%er. I really do not call me that. Yes, I'm liberal, but don't call me a 99%er.
So as the token in this particular instance, I was pushed to the right because of you, whereas I'm normally pushed to the left because of everyone else. Let me be the one.
I'm the only major liberal on the network
that actively does podcast. Yes.
Oh, great.
There's a few of you commies in the group, but they just don't always do podcasts, and they also kind of keep this to a dull roar. Hi, Andrew. Anyway.
Yeah, why is it that it's the fascists who don't know when to shut their damn mouths?
When someone yells at you again, I'm not going to step in front of them. You're on your own, sister. Anyway, speaking of fascism, what I wanted to talk about was how, because the show has kind of a liberal bent to it, has a progressive spin, there's definitely, at least in the writer's room, somewhat of an agenda. They are more concerned with modern kitchen table socio-political agenda than they are with the scientific, philosophical discussions that could be had. It's one of my major annoyances about Upload. The show so badly wants to bash billionaires, it's not dealing with the obvious elephants in the room. That is a major frustration I have with the thematic writing of this thing. Is that they are the writing is so preoccupied that it actually lessens the quality of the show for me, because you're missing big, interesting pieces you could be talking about. And here's the thing. It's not because it's a comedy, because The Orville does an amazing job of that. The Orville in season 1 dealt with transgendered children. This show barely touches on some of the stuff we're talking about. That's a frustration I have. And Eddie agrees with me.
It does feel like the show has a lot that it wants to say, but it's just either they don't have the time, they want to stick more to the rom-com formula, or they're scared that Bezos is actually going to start paying attention. Take your pick.
You're cut. Why? You hurt my feelings.
So, and because, yeah, I do wish that, we obviously see that Nathan has to give up the penknife that he stole, though he was using to access the code. And even that, I thought was such a cool idea. And I hated that they had to give that up in the 3rd episode. He had the code and he could access any part of this. And he's a brilliant coder. So I love just that scene of him being able to change the cards on poker night. that was really cool. But he's got to ditch it because they find out it's been stolen. He's got to get caught. And again, this is only a 7-episode season. So obviously we got to move things along, but it's gone in 3 episodes. And
Right.
it's like, this was, again, opened so many possibilities and you got rid of it. Wow, we keep branching out. I think we were talking originally about poker knife with the pen knife because we were talking about Ingrid using the job gerbil.
Yes.
And how that's the one. And Nathan bonds with Ingrid when it's not Ingrid. He falls for her when it's not her. He sees this other person who doesn't know he doesn't know it's not his girlfriend, and he is just so enthralled with her. I mean, what does that say? That this other woman that he's never met, doesn't know her name, doesn't know a damn thing about her, and he had so much more chemistry with her than he ever did with his actual girlfriend.
Right. What else you got on the agenda, Toots?
Okay, so
that was
go
for
ahead.
you, Pat. Keep going. We're almost at an hour.
Yeah, I know. So we've talked a lot about, let's go ahead and start wrapping things up a little bit. And let's talk about the major cliffhangers that we've got at the end of this season. Because while the first season did have some decent cliffhangers, this one is got a lot going on for it. The show has been renewed. It was picked up in May of 2022 for a 3rd season, and they have got a lot of unanswered questions. So among other things, Nathan has been successfully downloaded into his cloned body. He gets to actually spend his night with Nora, but he's worried because, like they said, the pigeons that have mostly survived only lasted for 24 hours. Now, he's on a quest there's a backdoor sabotage in the code that was stolen and used for Freon, is what it's called, for this new free digital afterlife. And it's in his retinal scan. So now that he's got his body, he can use the retinal scan, but he's got less than 24 hours now. We see his nose start bleeding. We don't know. It's like, is his head going to pop like a teenager's back zit? So we got that. We find out that his mother is signing up for Freon. His mother is going to upload. She's basically going to kill herself. She's essentially doing the pioneer thing. She's going to go in and she's going to start building up this great afterlife where anyone who gets too old or too sick or anything can come and join her and live a wonderful, carefree life. But now they're attempting to sabotage that. And now, Nathan's going to find out his mother is in this digital afterlife that he's going to go after. That's probably going to complicate things. We also find out back at the Lakeview office, Tinsley, who I'm going to just say is Tinsley, I think, is my new favorite character of the season. She was so cute. She's a temp who was brought in. She's adorable. She's just like, I really need this job. She's so awkward at first, and we see her actually kind of grow into her role in working IT. We see her start to develop a rapport. She's the one who actually shows respect to the AI. She's a great, very fun character. And I'm also going to say, I love the fact that she updates Nora's avatar to use for her own because she doesn't have her own avatar yet. And she gives her blue streaks in the hair. And Nora gets mad at that. And I'm like, screw you, lady. Blue hair's awesome. But of course, yeah, you see Tinsley with her avatar and she's got streaks and color in her hair. And it's just so cute. You see this girl who clearly is very down on her luck, kind of having fun with it. And yeah, she also bonds with Nathan because she sees him as very caring. You love that scene where he actually does talk to her in Nora's avatar. And he knows it's not her. And he's like, look, you did a really good job tonight. And he gives her first 5-star review. And she's so touched. Again, it's like, no, you get the feeling no one's ever given her this kind of validation before. It's a very touching scene. But when she can't find Nathan, she assumes he fell into, I can't remember what it's called, that like basically the edge of the digital world. It's like just he basically fell off a bridge. And we find out that they can actually reboot him. They can reboot him. They've got all of his, I guess they do a wireless backup on his memories, and they're developing a new avatar of him. And of course, Ingrid, who we thought had seen a little bit of growth and development when she saw Nathan get out of the tube and be downloaded is still cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs because she goes and gets his hair off of a brush, and it looks like she's not done trying to clone him. Of course, but now the question is, what's she going to do with a clone without his consciousness? Or is, wow, yeah, there's a discussion for another day that we do not have time for. How do you clone can they clone someone without their consciousness, since his consciousness has been redownloaded, or does she know that there is a backup? Oh my God, I'm hurting my brain. Please go ahead and talk, because like I said, there's a lot to unpack in this final episode. Huh?
I said, oh God, I've gone cross-eyed. The only thing I'm going to say in conclusion to this is the least interesting stuff to me is like Nathan's conspiracy behind his death. One of the things I said it before, one of the things I really liked about season 1 was that it really played in this universe and what it meant, and it raised questions and it dealt more with that. And there were more like funny scenarios, like, what does this donut taste like? It was kind of like the Matrix, that question in the Matrix where there was just like, how do we know that this is chicken? Do the robots know what chicken tastes like? How do we know it? We've just assumed that this is what chicken tastes like. That whole speech.
Yeah, you get a joke when they say the upgrade, they're finally installing umami into our tongues. It's like, oh, so that's why everything around here tastes like kettle corn.
Yeah.
Again, that's funny.
Right. The show is better when it deals with stuff like that. But I think they felt compelled to write a more stronger narrative that there's a mystery and there's a this and there's a conspiracy. And so there's 3 parts of the show. There's like a socio-political, cultural agenda. There's the questions of modern technology and what all does this mean. And then there's this plot-driven fictional narrative having to deal with conspiracies and stuff. And 2 out of 3 of those keep the show interesting for me. That 1/3 that this season was, and this is the point that I'm making, was a little overly reliant on, was the reason why I was kind of only watching with one eye. So not as good as the first season, I think. It doesn't even feel like its own season; it just feels like the back half of season 1. But not the strongest finish. I at the end of season 1, I was more interested in why Ingrid uploaded and what all that meant for Robbie and where Nora was going, and will Robbie and will they or won't they with Robbie and Nora? I mean, that is probably one part of the fictional narrative that I do enjoy is Robbie and Nora's romance. They are totes adorbs.
Yeah, I'm not a huge rom-com fan, but these characters are a lot of fun, and we like watching them grow together. I was thrilled to see them actually get to hook up.
I mean, they're no Henry Cavill, Amy Adams, but I mean, they have some degree of sexual chemistry to them, and you want to see them. You want to see love win the day, and this season wasn't nearly their budding romance in season 1 was one of the major anchors. They're not even together for half of this season, so that was I'm hoping the 3rd season it starts to find its legs a little bit more, and it gives us a little bit more of the philosophical and less of the running from the bad guys kind of stuff, because that's the weakest part of the show for me.
Agreed. I still enjoyed this season. It does open up a lot of questions, but it really does feel like the show is having trouble figuring out which questions it really wants to answer. I mean, we have an episode where, because the Ludds did a digital attack, now the company has decided that they can listen. That basically said, "Oh, this is an extreme. Now we can listen in on our clients' thoughts." I mean, I'm pretty sure this was a insanely thin veiled commentary on the Patriot Act. But yeah, they talk about how they can now. It's like, well, because of this attack, we can now listen to our customers' thoughts and dreams. Oh, and also we can profit off of it and sell it. You get this one Luke, the army guy, Nathan's best friend, who is so freaking adorable in this season. He really, I do love Luke, because you get the idea that he has been so alone in this digital afterlife. There are not that many people that are he and Nathan's age. So he's just so thrilled to have someone he can talk to and identify with. And we even get a really great scene with him giving a day pass to his old army buddy, and the army buddy sticks up for him. He's like, he was a wonderful guy. He was a amazing commander, sergeant. I don't remember what Luke's position was in the military, but you develop so much with him, and then you find out they're selling his dreams. He's having weird sex dreams about his handler, Alicia, and they're selling them. And Alicia is so mortified that she actually restricts him to having elementary school level dreams. Although, admittedly, the scene of him on what is pretty much the set of Blue's Clues was so funny. It was so cute. But he actually gets into doing the puzzles. It was adorable. But I feel like the show would really benefit. Interestingly enough, I think it would benefit from a longer season. We only had 10 episodes in the first one, 7 episodes in this one. There is so much that we got to unpack. I think the show would do a lot better if they actually expanded on that. And we got, like, hell, I'll say 20 episodes. I think we got 20 episodes to really dive into what is going on with the philosophical ramifications of them using this digital afterlife to rig elections in swing states to keep the poor, the poor people poor, because that is literally what's happening. That is literally the conspiracy that we uncover. And it just takes a back note to watching Ingrid freak out because she can't get the Robo baby to go to sleep, which is funny.
Okay, I think
we want all of it. We don't want. Sorry, go ahead.
I think in conclusion, and then we should go to plugs. Hint, hint, nudge, nudge.
Got it.
I feel like the show would benefit from a better premise, writing, cast, and production team. Thanks, Pat. Pat, always.
Wow.
Always with an insightful comment. Wrap it up, sister.
It's like, wow, Pat, you call yourself a critic?
Christ.
Okay, so yes, the show has been. Thank you. All right. So the show's been picked up for a 3rd season. We don't know yet when we're going to get that. They haven't announced any filming or production updates, so we'll just have to wait and see what happens. But there is a lot to unpack, and hopefully we do get a longer season. So let's go ahead, unless there was anything else you wanted to comment on, anything I forgot.
I'm good.
Okay.
Hey, Alexis, thank you for having me here on the Radulich Broadcasting Network. This was a great show, and we can't wait for you to do another TV party with other guests, not me.
Was I that bad?
No, not at all. Do you have some stuff lined up? Like, yeah, actually, talk a little bit about what your. I'm just going to leave this here for the duration of the show.
I'm going to give you a credit, Pat. If that was actually a comment on Mystery Science Theater 3000, you actually have moved up a little bit in my respect.
Well, he's doing John Lovitz.
Okay, is it a John Lovitz reference? Or
that's
is
a John Lovitz reference, yes.
I thought it was a Pod People reference.
No, that's John Lovitz, like from The Critic.
Yeah, I know The Critic. I have the entire season or series.
Yeah, it's the best cartoon in the history of animation. Anyway, what is your plan? What are you doing next?
Okay, I actually do not have a plan at the moment. Like I said, I just learned how to use this software a few days ago. I am going now that I actually understand what I'm doing here, because until we started getting into this, I didn't even know where the sound effects buttons were. I promise not to abuse them.
They're right here.
Get on with it. Yes, get on with it.
So, Loki.
Ooh, that's a bingo.
Jesus, what the fuck did I do? You happy now, bitch?
And now, I'm up at News Flash.
Save me, Robert.
Just one time I want to just do that and then cut to like you with a shotgun in your mouth.
You're not getting rid of me that easily, Mark.
Daintily putting on a noose. Wait, oh, sorry.
If I'm not going to do that for Jeff, I'm not going to do that for you.
All right. So now, what are you don't have a plan, but what are your ideas? What do you what do you
Okay,
think you might want to do in the
so
near future?
there. Okay, yes. So
I watched
there are
Cuphead, by the way. We watched Cuphead. I'm not
Yes, I
reviewing
do
it
want
with
to
you, but
talk
we did
about
watch it.
Cuphead season 2. I would love to get your daughter's input because I know how thrilled she was to finally get Calla Maria on the show.
I
And
believe she was, yes.
okay, so we got that. A couple other people had mentioned to me that they want to talk about the Sandman now that that's on Netflix.
Mhm.
We should have recorded that actually weeks ago. We are so freaking behind. So there's that. With October coming up, I want to do some more horror movie plugs. Apparently, my dogs want to get in on the commentary. What a surprise! So, kicking around a couple of ideas. We'll see where things go.
Okay.
Like I said,
So-
my main concern was making sure that I learned how to use all of this
Yeah.
first. And it's like, okay, once I know how to not land flat on my face, then we'll have a plan.
Okay.
Makes sense.
Talk to me before you start committing to some movie reviews, just so we don't have duplications and wrong things and whatnot.
Yeah, no problem.
Okay.
All right. So let's go ahead and move on to plugs in and wrap this up because I know you're just dying to get the hell out of here. Do you want to do your plugs first, or should I go first?
No, I got it. So I've been on the W2M website page. We've been building pages for some old shows. This weekend, I put up pages for our Upon a Burning Body Southern Hostility review, the Metal Hammer of Doom from 2019. These are all 2019. Glory Hammer, which is the greatest name of a band ever. Legends from Beyond the Galactic Terror Vortex. Amon Amarth, who are currently on tour, and I think there's a new album. He's out now or due out soon. Berserker, would you like to suck my cock, Berserker? Would you like some making fuck, Berserker? Did he
I
just
thought
say
you
making
didn't like
fuck?
Kevin Smith.
I don't like him now. I think he needs to get laid and shut up and get off Twitter. But back then, when he, but back then when he was making fuck, he was great. Speaking of making fuck, L7 Scatter the Rats. We got a page up for that. And if you're looking for some new content in my 2-day-a-week schedule, we'll have a Metal Hammer of Doom extra this week for the new Clutch album. We'll see if I tell sexy stories or not. I haven't decided yet. I may tell some sad stories. But after that, the audio review, the standard album review, Metal Hammer of Doom, Megadeth, The Sick, The Dying, and The Dead. We'll have that review for you Thursday night. And Sunday, we've got an old show from the Blog Talk Radio days. Me and a buddy reviewed Chef's Table, whatever season that was at the time. And then the following week, we've got a review of The Wire Season 2 featuring Ziggy's Dick. And speaking of Ziggy's Dick, Alexis will be on Damn You Hollywood to review the Disney live-action remake of Pinocchio, which airs on Disney Plus September 8th.
God
And
help
then-
me. No,
And then-
I love that everyone. We watched the trailer and everyone's like, "Was the puppet creepy?" I'm like, "The puppet looked fine. It was the CGI animals that are going to give me nightmares." I don't want to see Keegan-Michael Key as a fox that close up.
And then that's all for us. Thanks. We're driving. All right, your turn and get us out of here.
All right. Yes, since Mark doesn't pay me, I got to go ahead and do plugs for my business. I saw you reach it. I thought you were going to hit another sound effect and interrupt me.
Nope, I was ignoring you. I was reading my email.
Okay, sorry. I saw you go like this. That's usually code for I'm about to make Alexa shut up. All right. One of these days I will have a... Are you done?
Please continue.
Honeysuckle roaster. I hate you so much. I hate you, Mark.
Hands are where you can see them.
Honeysuckle Rose Creations, where fashion meets fandom at the intersection of geek and chic. We just wrapped up our Labor Day sale. We're getting ready for Cincinnati Comic Expo at the end of this month. That's a great show. We've been doing it for years. Love it. Can't wait to be out there. In the meantime, we're going to be uploading a few new things onto our shops on Etsy and Handmade at Amazon. We have, among other things, we have a brand new bracelet inspired by Neil Gaiman's Sandman, based off of the 7 Endless. Was kicking around that design for a while. Can't wait to get it online. I'm just going to say it. I got bored and I made earrings that look like Pop-Tarts, and now I'm going to put those online. So, go ahead and check that out. Again, our shops are on Etsy and Handmade at Amazon. You can find us and follow us on Facebook, Instagram, Pinterest, and Under Duress Twitter. Again, we hope to see you guys at the Cincinnati Comic Expo. It's a wonderful show. If you're out in that area, we really hope you'll stop by. Again, that's Honeysuckle Rose Creations, the intersection of geek and chic.
All right. Well, this has just been a fabulous start to Alexis's podcast host career. So, all right, I have to ask you before we go. You got your bones hosting shows on Jeff's podcast, where you have to manage 47 different neckbeards as they talk about the granular details of Boba Fett's penis hair.
That's why I actually implemented that new rule saying that you couldn't. I basically said, as the host, I was going to ask a different question to each person. I was like, we are not going to ask the same question and get the same answer 5 different times. And for the record, I moderated that, but I technically still wasn't hosting. Jeff was still in charge of that. He was the one actually, running the software.
So now you've made the leap from moderating to hosting. How do you feel?
Excited, looking forward to doing more. Again, it's like I may have fallen on my face a couple of times in this particular show tonight, but I think I handled it okay. Aside from forgetting to introduce myself, which I
occasionally I do that too. I go right into the thing and I'm like, oh, by the way, I'm Mark. All right.
Well, I think I was actually thinking about how you start the show, and I started.
Dude, I'd have laughed so hard if, like, I'm Alexis Hejna, the mandated reporter. Fuck. Literally,
I was thinking about how you host. I'm like, okay, so I just got to go like that, and then it didn't occur to me. Oh, I should probably introduce myself. I was just too in the zone of what I need to do.
All right, take me home, baby doll.
All right, so yes, for Mark Radulich and for a certain other person who's been commenting who doesn't know how to shut up, that is the end. Be well, be safe, behave.
Are you playing the outro?